here's something powerful about a man who refuses to let age define him. A man who hits 60 and doesn't shrink, doesn't slow down, doesn't fade into the background like the world expects. Instead, he sharpens, he upgrades, he becomes the rare kind of man women notice instantly, not because of youth, not because of trends, but because of presence. Most men waste their 60 seconds. They think life is winding down. They let their body soften, their mind dull, their confidence collapse. But there's another breed, the men who become magnetic after 60. The men who turn their age into an advantage. And women? They feel it. They sense it. They are drawn to it. Because a man at 60 has lived life. He's been broken, rebuilt, betrayed, hardened, softened, shaped by time. But only a few men take that experience and turn it into power. Only a few refine themselves into something unshakable. This script is about becoming that man, the man women can't resist, not because he tries, but because everything about him is naturally attractive. The energy you carry is more attractive than the age you have. There's a certain kind of energy that separates a man who's simply older from a man who has matured into strength, depth, and magnetism. At 60, you're not competing with younger men on youth anymore, and you don't need to. What becomes far more attractive than a young face or a tight waistline is the way you carry yourself. The energy you give off when you walk into a room. The calm confidence that radiates from a man who knows himself deeply. Women feel that energy instantly. They feel it before you speak, before they know your story, before they understand anything about your past. Your energy tells your story for you. A man over 60 who still has life in his eyes is powerful. Not the wildfire of a teenage boy trying to prove himself, but a deeper fire, the fire of a man who has been through storms, who has been tested, who has stood in the fire and walked out stronger. This energy is rare. Most men lose it as they age. They let their body weaken, they let their posture collapse, they let their mindset slip into negativity, they let bitterness take root. They become shadows of who they once were, moving through life with no spark, no vitality, no intention. That's why their age becomes something they hide from. They don't want to be seen because deep down they feel they have lost themselves. But a man who takes care of his energy doesn't shrink with age. He expands. He becomes more self-assured, more mentally sharp, more physically capable than men half his age. And this is where women notice him. Women don't fall in love with a number. They fall in love with how you make them feel. And a man whose energy is strong, grounded, alive, and focused makes a woman feel safe, excited, curious, and drawn in. She senses his strength, not the superficial strength of muscles alone, but the strength of a man who is still connected to his own life force. Your energy is built from the habits you carry, how you move your body, how you treat your health, how you speak, how you breathe, how deeply you value your own existence. When a man reaches 60, and still trains, still pushes himself, still demands discipline from his body, he sends a message without saying a word. I'm not done. I'm not slowing down. I'm not giving up on myself. That level of self-respect becomes attractive because it shows that you are not waiting for life to happen to you. You are actively shaping it. Women are drawn to men who refuse to let themselves decay. A man who still works out, who still keeps his appearance sharp, who maintains his posture, who walks with confidence, who takes pride in himself, that man becomes magnetic. Not because he's trying to impress anyone, but because he lives by a standard. Most men at this age don't even realize they've lowered their standards. They think it's normal to be tired, normal to be stiff, normal to be weak. They accept decline as destiny. But you aren't meant to fade. You're meant to evolve into a stronger version of yourself. And when you choose vitality, women feel it. Energy is also mental. A man with a positive outlook, a man who still enjoys life, who still laughs, who still dreams, who still challenges himself mentally, becomes infinitely more attractive. Negativity ages a man faster than time ever will. When you carry bitterness, regret, resentment, or hopelessness, your energy becomes heavy. It makes you unattractive without you even realizing it. But a man who sees life with excitement, who still sets goals, who finds joy in the little things, who doesn't complain, who doesn't focus on what he's lost but what he still has to build, that man feels young even if he's lived 6 decades. What women really fall for is emotional aliveness. A man whose energy is awake, A man who listens deeply, speaks with intention, and moves with purpose. A man who has presence, who gives attention instead of seeking attention, who stands confidently without needing anyone's approval. When a man reaches 60 and still carries himself like a king, not arrogant, not loud, but firm, grounded, and sure of who he is, that becomes irresistible. Your energy at 60 is shaped by everything you've survived, but also by everything you still choose to pursue. It is the mixture of your strength, your discipline, your curiosity, your physical health, your mental sharpness, and your emotional stability. And when you combine all that into the way you carry yourself, you become the kind of man who doesn't have to chase attraction. You simply embody it. Emotional mastery is the new male superpower. Emotional mastery is one of the most underrated traits in a man, especially as he ages. Most men hit 60 and become more reactive, more impatient, more bitter, and more set in their ways. They think age gives them the right to close their minds and harden their hearts. But this is exactly why they become less attractive over time. What they don't realize is that the men women find the most compelling at this stage of life are the ones who have mastered their inner world, not suppressed it, not ignored it, not numbed it, mastered it. A man who is in control of his emotions becomes a rare force because most men are controlled by theirs without ever admitting it. When a man reaches 60, he has lived through decades of highs, lows, wins, losses, heartbreaks, and lessons. But only a small percentage of men use those experiences to cultivate emotional clarity. The rest carry emotional scars, like weights that pull them down. A man who has emotional mastery understands that his past does not define him, but it has shaped him, and instead of letting it make him bitter, he allows it to make him wiser. That wisdom becomes magnetic. Women see it in the way he moves, the way he listens, the way he speaks without rushing, the way he responds with intention instead of reacting with impulse. Emotional mastery is not about shutting down or being cold. That's what weak men do when they don't know how to handle their emotions. They hide behind silence or anger because they fear vulnerability. A strong man understands that emotional control doesn't mean lack of emotion. It means he knows how to regulate his inner storms. He has learned to breathe through conflict, to stay calm in chaos, to hold his frame when the world tries to shake him. This calmness is incredibly attractive to women. It makes them feel safe, understood, and valued in a way younger men often cannot provide. A man with emotional mastery doesn't get pulled into drama. He doesn't argue to win. He doesn't explode over small things. He doesn't let insecurity turn into jealousy. Instead, he observes before speaking. He thinks before reacting. He makes decisions from a place of stability, not fear. This level of emotional discipline makes a man stand out immediately, because emotional chaos is everywhere. When a man provides emotional stability, he becomes a source of peace in a world full of noise. That peace is intoxicating. Women naturally gravitate toward men who can handle pressure without becoming aggressive or defensive. They feel drawn to a man who can remain grounded when things go wrong. A man who can look them in the eyes during difficult moments and still be present, still be patient, still be firm in his own identity. Emotional mastery gives him that ability. It gives him emotional presence. Presence is one of the most attractive traits a man can have, and it becomes even more powerful with age. One of the biggest reasons emotional mastery is so attractive is because it communicates confidence. Not the superficial confidence of trying to impress, but the deep confidence of knowing who you are and what you stand for. A man who is emotionally steady signals that he trusts himself. And when a man trusts himself, others naturally trust him too. Women feel more secure around him because they know he won't lose control, won't lash out irrationally, won't crumble under stress. He becomes the kind of man a woman can lean on, not because she needs to, but because she wants to. A man who has mastered his emotions also becomes an exceptional communicator. He doesn't communicate to dominate, he communicates to connect. He listens with patience. He hears what is not being said. He doesn't interrupt to prove a point or defend his pride. He has nothing to prove. His maturity has given him the ability to choose the right words at the right time. That level of communication is powerful, especially for women, because it makes them feel understood without judgment. Emotional mastery also gives a man the rare ability to stay detached from negativity. He doesn't allow other people's emotions to control his. He doesn't take things personally. He doesn't allow the world to disturb his inner peace. Instead, he filters what he allows into his life. He protects his mental and emotional space with the same seriousness that others protect their possessions. This emotional discipline creates a powerful aura around him, an aura of a man who is in command of himself. Another element that makes emotional mastery so irresistible is the way it changes a man's presence. Women can sense it instantly. They feel the calm, they feel the control, they feel the absence of insecurity. They feel the strength behind his silence and the thoughtfulness behind his speech. Emotional mastery gives a man depth, and depth is something younger men rarely have. Younger men often rely on appearance or charm, but a man with emotional control brings a level of maturity that creates safety, desire, and respect. What truly sets a man apart at 60 is not how much life he has lived, but how well he has learned from it. Emotional mastery makes those lessons visible. It turns pain into perspective, heartbreak into understanding, failure into patience, and conflict into clarity. It creates a man who doesn't run from emotions but navigates them with precision and strength. Women recognize this instantly. They feel the difference between a man who reacts and a man who responds. And they always choose the man who responds with calm leadership, grounded confidence, and emotional maturity. Purpose makes 60-year-old men unstoppable. Purpose is one of the strongest forces a man can possess, and it becomes even more powerful with age. When a man reaches 60, the world often expects him to slow down, step aside, fade into the background, or quietly accept that his best years are behind him. Society pushes older men into a corner where they're told to relax, retire, and drift through the rest of life without intensity or ambition. But that mindset destroys a man from the inside. A man without a purpose doesn't just lose direction, he loses power. He loses excitement. He loses the fire in his eyes. And once the fire goes out, everything else follows. But the men women find irresistible at 60 are the ones who still burn with intention. They don't retire from life. They lean into it with even more focus. Purpose transforms a man's presence. A man who wakes up with something to strive for carries himself differently. His shoulders are stronger. His voice is firmer. His energy has weight. You can feel it when he walks into a room. He moves like someone who still has work to do, not like someone who is waiting for life to end. He radiates a sense of mission that younger men struggle to replicate. Women feel this instantly because a man with purpose becomes magnetic without trying. He isn't chasing validation. He isn't seeking attention. He isn't begging for companionship. He is too busy building, creating, improving, and moving forward. That forward motion alone makes him stand out. Most men at this stage of life drift because they let time convince them they're done. They think purpose is only for the young, as if passion and drive expire with age. But a man with purpose never ages the way others do. His mind stays sharp because it has something to focus on. His body stays active because it has a reason to move. His heart stays alive because it has meaning. Purpose becomes the engine that keeps a man powerful long after others have given up. And women can sense this strength without a single word being spoken. You can see the difference between a man with purpose and a man without it. A man without purpose hesitates. He wastes time. He drifts from one distraction to the next. He becomes bored easily because he has nothing meaningful pulling him forward. He grows bitter because he feels useless. He becomes weaker because he has nothing to fight for. This lack of direction makes him unattractive no matter how much experience or knowledge he has. Women don't want a man who is stuck in the past or trapped in routines that drain him. They want a man who is still reaching for something greater. On the other hand, a man with purpose remains alive. His eyes still have ambition in them. His mind is curious. His spirit is unbroken. He takes care of his health not because he fears aging, but because he needs his body to be strong enough to match his mission. Whether that purpose is building something new, mentoring others, mastering a craft, growing spiritually, creating art, or developing himself into a smarter, stronger man, purpose gives him a reason to wake up with drive. And that drive becomes one of his most attractive qualities. Purpose also gives a man emotional strength. A man with a mission doesn't get lost in unnecessary drama. He doesn't crumble under stress because he knows what he's aiming for. His goals filter out distractions. He becomes focused, intentional, and steady. Women feel more secure around a man like this because he isn't scattered or confused. His direction brings clarity to the relationship. His purpose gives him confidence that doesn't depend on appearance, age, or external approval. It comes from within. A powerful aspect of purpose is the discipline it shapes. A man with purpose doesn't allow himself to fall apart physically or mentally. He trains because he has something to stay strong for. He learns because he has something to grow toward. He makes decisions with intention because he knows every step must align with where he is headed. This level of discipline becomes attractive because it reflects a man who respects himself and his time. Women admire men who take themselves seriously, not in an arrogant way, but in a way that shows they value their life. Purpose also gives a man presence. Presence is the feeling someone gives when they are fully alive, fully engaged, and fully aware. Younger men often lack this because they're still searching for themselves. But a purposeful man at 60 has direction, clarity, and depth. He listens differently, he speaks differently, he carries himself with quiet certainty because he knows who he is and where he's going. Women feel this certainty immediately. It makes them trust him, admire him, and feel drawn to him on a deeper level. What makes purpose so irresistible is that it turns a man into a leader by nature. Not a leader who forces authority, but a leader who inspires through action. He lifts himself, and by doing so, he inspires others. Women find themselves attracted to men who know how to guide their own life, because it shows emotional maturity and strength. And once a man has direction, everything in his life aligns with it. His choices, his habits, his attitude, and his energy. Purpose makes a man impossible to ignore. It gives him momentum at an age where most men have stopped moving. It gives him ambition at a stage where most men have surrendered. It gives him value, identity, confidence, and presence. This is why men with purpose become the most attractive version of themselves after 60. They don't waste time. They don't waste life. They don't waste their potential. They evolve, they grow, they push, they lead, and they shine in a way younger men cannot replicate because age has given them wisdom and purpose has given them fire.